PK here. Today I'm here to talk about digital versus physical. It might be one of the dumbest arguments in the retro gaming community. Retro gaming to me is more than just collecting. It's playing games from the past you love. Digital and physical games, whether they be modern or retro, both have advantages and flaws, and I want to look at this objectively. Physical games, more specifically 6th gen and below, have a lot of amazing advantages. No updates, no DRM, no unnecessary downloadable content. It's something tangible. You can physically own it, hold it in your hand. You can trade it. It has value. Not CDs, but cartridges are very durable. In fact, with some CDs, you actually have to worry about disc rot, especially some of the earlier stuff like the Sega CD and Sega Saturn. Though there are a lot of advantages to physical gaming, there's disadvantages too that can't be ignored. One of the biggest complaints we have is, we're so tired of updates. But what about good updates? What about updates that fix game-breaking glitches? A great example, with physical gaming, like Cheetah Men 2, that game is unplayable, if you had bought it back when it was new. But also, glitches can have upsides as well. Obviously, a lot of people like the glitches who do speedruns, of certain games because they can beat the game much faster because of glitches. So there's advantages and disadvantages to glitches. But game-breaking glitches are bad, and digital games know how to fix this problem, whereas physical games don't. What about good downloadable content? A great example would be New Super Luigi U. I like downloadable content if it was made after the fact and not during the process of it. And here's another question you need to ask yourself is this. If I buy a game and then new downloadable content comes out, can't I still play and beat the game? Just because there's that new content there doesn't necessarily mean that the game is incomplete. The game is only incomplete if you can't beat the game without buying downloadable content. Then the game really isn't complete, and I can understand that. It's the mentality that old school gaming is perfect, pure, and flawless is the reason somebody like Mike Kennedy got as far as he did with the Retro VGS and the Coleco Chameleon. It's because there's people live in this fantasy land where all of retro gaming was perfect and pure and could do no wrong. Another big complaint too is about how long some of these modern games are. Some people complain, this game was only 2 or 3 hours long, and it's like, so are a lot of old retro games. If you know what you're doing, you can beat a lot of these. Like Super Mario Brothers can be beat in under an hour easily, but nobody complains about that. I think Super Mario Brothers 2, if you're using warp zones, can be beat really quickly as well. There's a lot of games like that where the game is actually quite short, especially the old school 8-bit games are very short if you know what you're doing. I think it's amazing that we have newer modern games, some modern games that are actually like 20 hours long. I mean, sure, a lot of it's cinema scenes, but still it's an experience nonetheless in its own right. Another thing that's awesome about digital gaming is your stuff's backed up-ish to a point. And I say ish because yes, on PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and Steam, all your stuff is tied to an account. Whereas this is where Nintendo gets this totally wrong. They actually have accounts for the Wii U and 3DS, but it's still tied to the system. It makes no sense. Well, for the most part, yeah, it's very advantageous that your digital libraries are tied to an account because let's say my house burns down and my PS3 was inside and I have to get a new, that'd be the least of my problems with games. But if I have my PS3, let's say it breaks, for example, I can buy a new PS3 and re-download all those games. Whereas if my house catches on fire or my basement floods, all my physical games are gone, basically. I mean, they're destroyed, and so there's definitely advantages on both sides there for sure. Another thing to talk about too, I want to talk about real quick is if you do have a huge physical library, I highly recommend documenting it, taking pictures, taking video, whatever you got to do, and knowing the value of all these games because in the event that something like that would happen, you're going to have to deal with an insurance company. And that insurance company is probably not going to want to give you the full value of what you have, especially if you can't prove the full value of what you have. And let's say they do give you the full value of what you have, or not the full value even. Basically, they're going to give you money. So what you're going to have to do is go back and buy all those games again. But will you? Maybe, maybe not. Another question to ponder is every physical game worth preserving? A great example, I always thought that like the Madden series, for example, should be an all digital series, and that the people who play it should have to just pay a fee the next year to get the new roster of players. That'd be so much simpler than simply, I've got to buy a new copy of Madden every year that'll go down to being like $3 a year from now. It's crazy because those games just lose value so quickly. And think about all the shovelware, all the Bratz games and Mary Kate games. Are those games really worth saving and preserving? Nowadays, digital games earn their physical copy. A great example of that is Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight was created by an independent developer, Yacht Club Games, and basically a lot of people downloaded it, and a lot of people downloaded it so much to the point, and there was so much of a demand for the physical copy, that Yacht Club Games delivered and gave us physical copies. I have a physical copy of that now, and I'm really happy about that. DuckTales HD, I was an early downloader, and guess what happened? It got a physical game. Modern games nowadays, when they get a physical copy, quite a few of them got it because they earned it. Like physical copy, there's downsides to it as well, because some games that are really good get delisted off the Xbox Live or PlayStation Network. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is the example I always bring up. I think it's a damn tragedy that game doesn't have a physical release, but at the same time, how many people were downloading it is what I want to know. I don't know the answer to that, but if there was really a huge demand for it, believe me, Ubisoft, if they can make some money off of it, they will, So that's another thing. There's got to be a demand for it. There's instances where digital actually can be more affordable, actually. Not every situation. Every situation is different. But like on some of the older school games, yeah, like good example, Final Fantasy VII, was it $10 to download it on PlayStation Network, or at least it used to be. It's about $30 for a physical copy, and if you just have a desire just to play the game, then that's huge for you. I mean, and the only thing that's really cool is it's a cross-platform game, so you could play it on your PS3 and PSP. So you could play it on your system and on the go. So, I mean, there's some advantages there. Now, there's definitely exceptions to that rule. Oh, wow, there's a lot of digital games that are totally overpriced, especially like modern ones. Because you can get games like Batman Arkham Origins and Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag for PS3. You can get those at like GameStop cheaper by like half almost compared to what it costs on the PlayStation Network. So there's definitely exceptions to that rule as well. I guarantee you, as I've been recording this film, that there's somebody going to type in the comments section, that guy who's going to say, I prefer physical media. I guarantee you somebody is going to type that in the comments section. Somebody will prove me right on that. And my response to that person is, welcome to the 99% of retro gamers. You are not special. You are not a unique snowflake. You are like everybody else. Because, the majority of retro gamers are collectors, and that's why. The goal of this video is not to say that one form of gaming is better than the other. It is to say that from a logical standpoint, that they are both on similar footing and that you don't have to choose. Neither format is perfect. It's okay to have your cake and eat it too, as I guess is what I'm really trying to say. You can do both. You don't have to make that decision. Sure, there's no denying that popping in an NES game into your front-loading NES and playing it on your CRT TV is a special experience. There's no denying that. But so is downloading some cheap indie title and having a 4-player session with your best friends. Don't let me or anyone in the community do your thinking for you. Decide for yourself what media is best for you. Play what you like, and I encourage you to be open-minded. The digital game you decide to download today could be that Shovel Knight that eventually gets a physical copy, because people like you downloaded that. That's all the time I have today. This is PK saying, download and collect what you like and keep on gaming.